Right, welcome to the first ever History Hitman Podcast. As you can see, it says Breaking Beard there. Obviously, this is not the Breaking Beard podcast, but think of this as the baby brother, maybe the cousin, any other kind of family step-sister of the Breaking Beard podcast. And we're joined today by Mr. Ben Pearson.
Hello.
Former Police Interceptor and former guest on the Breaking Beard podcast as well.
Former guest.
And then behind the scenes today, we've got Mr. Josh Gudgeon. So, he's not on camera today.
I say you boys are in the hot seat.
He's a bit upset, to be fair, that we've relegated him to the corner. So
I'll take it, man. It's your show.
Oh, God. Pressure's on now. I was hoping Josh would sit here as well and, he's the burden.
I'm in the room, man. It's all right. I'm just going to help with production, you know. Like you said, it's the ugly stepsister. It's part of the Breaking Beard productions now.
You said ugly stepsister. I thought we were the better looking ones. Like, we're alphas, you're Bravo ones.
Whatever, mate.
Or is it beta? I'm alpha. This is our podcast now.
This is it. We've took over. So I say it's the first iteration of this, but for those who watch the Breaking Beard podcast, which you should do, episode 100, I delved into the family history of Josh and Beard, and I think it was a successful episode, wasn't it, Josh?
I think it was probably hands down the best episode we've ever had.
Yeah, just because it was planned. I think every other podcast.
If you go to the comment section of that and read it, everyone is like, "This is the best episode you've ever done," and it's because me and Adam had nothing to do with it. So. No doubt, this is going to be a sick podcast from Daddy. No, I think you guys made it better. But you managed to pick out all our history from both sides. What were some of the key points from my history and then from Adam's history?
From yours, it was the you had the
guy that broke the bank at Monte Carlo.
Yeah, you had that. You had Mick Jagger in there, and for Adam, it was. I think the main one I remember that sticks out is the pirate one. His descent from pirates, and his grandmother had told him that as well.
I remember that, but I didn't know Mick Jagger. I must have lost that somewhere in podcast.
Yeah, that they were on. So you're related to the Jagger.
Yeah,
family.
so my granddad's surname is Jagger, so he always said, "Oh, we're related to Mick Jagger." I'm like, "Yeah, of course we are, Granddad," you know. And it turns out we are. And he also, I think he told me as well that we were related to the guy that broke the bank at Monte Carlo, and that was true also.
Yeah.
And then Adam, because Adam's got a Moran name, so he was like, "I'm Irish." St. Paddy's Day is like walking around with his, leprechaun on his shoulder. Turns out I'm more Irish than he is as well, which was quite funny.
Is he Cornish then?
Yeah. It's from down there.
So we're a sick podcast, mate. So I've got no doubt with the guests that you've got lined up and the effort that you put in towards these podcasts, it's going to be class, mate.
Yeah, very good.
Right, let's smash it.
You're our first guest.
Thank you am I the actual first official guest?
You are the first official guest.
Mate, thank you. I'm blown away. Thank you.
How are you doing anyway?
I'm all right.
How's life?
Life is extremely good at the moment. Everything's going, all I can describe is on an upward plan.
That's good.
Family's great. Career's going very, very well at the moment, and it's only getting bigger and bigger for us. So, yeah. And hopefully, touch wood, I've just taken on my first agent, or my first agent's just taken me on, if that makes sense. So yeah, everything's going really, really well, and we're raising loads of money for charities, and I'm blown away to be the first. I actually didn't know, I thought they were the first. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to start blushing in a minute, so thank you.
Yeah, this is our first official break-off podcast. So we'll start off, obviously, Josh put us in contact because you'd saw that episode, I'm guessing, and had you already done your DNA at that point? I think
no. What I'd done at that moment in time, it's a long story, but years ago I had a bit of I don't want to call it an epiphany or whatever it was, but due to the job I was doing and due to the amount of fatals I was dealing with and things like that, I wanted to know where I came from. And I know we've been always based around Baildon as our family. That I'm a Pearson, but I'm technically more of a Holmes. Holmes is my mum's maiden name. And I remember going to the graveyard down in Charlestown, and it's full with Holmes all over in Charlestown. So I rung my mum, and she says, "Oh, Uncle Granville." Never heard of Uncle Granville before. Uncle Granville's doing family tree. and this is technically probably before internet's gone big. There were no such thing as ancestry. There were nothing like that. You had to go to the either the banks or the church records, or you had to go through proper documents. And I went to see Granville, never met him before, opened the door, instantly he recognised me. It's my granddad's half-brother. And on his table, this sort of size table, he had the family tree all wrote out in his dining room. And he traced it back, I think it was, to early 1800s. And he knew what people did. He knew that they'd been friends with the families of Baildon, obviously from Baildon, that's why it's called that. And he showed me, then literally, Granville says, I'm going to go through it all with you. And we've got the family Bible, and I'm going on holiday. And then, unfortunately, he had an heart attack and dropped down dead when he went on holiday.
No way. Yeah.
And I never really got to know. So I've always been quite obsessed. And when I watched this one, and then Josh is on about and beards, pirate beard with his one eye and his chopped off wooden leg and shit like that. And I thought, I want to know. I really want to know. And that's obviously why me and you became in contact. And then this is why I'm here.
Yeah. So we have actually obviously already spoke about this and delved in. So you already know some of these facts that we're gonna be talking about.
I know some, but it hasn't really sunk in because when you're doing it on WhatsApp. So this is what people
you're
don't
reading
know.
something, and we can talk about it a little bit more in depth. So you did do your DNA.
I did my DNA,
which always helps, but there always is I have to warn people now because I've had so many things thrown up, from DNA. Honestly, it's been a massive learning curve for me. People come in and I've done my DNA because it always helps having DNA to refer to when say there's a certain family name and the records kind of stop. And with DNA, I can look at the DNA matches with people with that family name, and sometimes we can join it and we can continue the line, so it really, really does help having the DNA. But sometimes we get DNA and it doesn't match the records and the tree that we've built for someone, which obviously tells you that the parents aren't, the right people. So luckily for you, you're all good.
So you find out your mum and dad's not really your mum and dad?
Yeah. And I've had
paying you for?
I've had to have that conversation I've had that conversation recently with someone, and it's a tough one to I
wouldn't want to know that.
Yeah. So I mean, luckily the people I've spoke to, have dealt with it, and but it's a massive, bombshell in it to be dropping on people. So
definitely,
but you're safe.
Thank you. And right. just to clarify one thing as well, what I found out and what I wanted to know from you is definitely where I was from. Am I Irish? Am I half Scottish? Am I Swedish?
Yeah.
Am I like the Dave Beard with his pirate leg on, or am I proper Yorkshire?
Yeah.
And then one thing, it was like I said, I spent 19 years of fighting crime and making society better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know as well. And my family shitbags. Have I come from wrong end of tracks, so to speak?
Yeah, it's another thing that I tend to find, it's almost like a DNA memory. Like I'll start doing someone's family tree and things will crop up that sort of relate to who they are and what they do in their character, in the past, which is, it's kind of strange.
Go on and hit me with it. I'm all excited. It's like Christmas morning.
We were like that on the podcast as well. I was like, come on, spit it out. And Danny's like telling this story. Everyone listening will be like, oh, I'm really drawn into it. But when you're sat there and it's yours, you're like,
I want to know.
It out, man.
Yeah. So you did your DNA. So have you looked at your DNA results? Did you have a look at the breakdown and stuff?
I've had a look, and I know where I'm from, and obviously it's picked up people from across the world.
Yeah.
Apparently I've looked, and there's someone in, I think, LA that's quite famous, that's got the, I don't know, probably some sort of like Z-list LA celebrity.
Yeah.
But I looked on his Instagram and he's got a lot of followers, and I thought, I contacted him and he just went, yo, cool. And that's all I got back. I'm like, fucking wanker.
Who was that?
I don't know what it's called. I'll have to have a look. I'll have to go online.
Yeah.
It'll be someone called Chad Winkham Pickle or whatever, from some sort of American name. But yeah, he just went, yo, cool. And that was it. I thought, was come over, dude, and show me a good time.
Yeah, that's it. So with the DNA, you do get a lot of DNA matches. Like it's crazy how many you do get. And so when you get like a little breakdown of your origins. So on that, you was 79% English and Northern European, so you're very, very, very British, and in terms of DNA regions, it does centre around Yorkshire. So you are a Yorkshire man through and through. Like chop you in half, and it says Yorkshire.
Fucking short arms, deep pockets.
So yeah. 3%, only 3% Scottish,
Right.
2% Welsh, so a small amount of Scottish and Welsh there, and 16% Scandinavian.
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
Is that like Viking?
Yeah, so most people in most like what you would consider British people do have that Scandinavian influence because obviously the Vikings.
He does, doesn't he? It's like he's blonde hair, blue eye.
Yeah,
beautiful little boy.
Aryan. But yeah, we had obviously we had the Vikings come over, and then we had the Danelaw. So basically, Yorkshire. I mean, York was their capital.
Yeah.
So Yorkshire was overrun with Vikings, and you get them mingling with the local population and stuff like that, and then
Throwing the seed about.
throwing the seed as Vikings do, and
Spreading the corn.
Yeah, and then 1066, you had the Battle of Hastings. So that's when the Normans invaded, and William the Conqueror. So you know that guy is, right? Very famous king, became King William of England. But his ancestors were Vikings. So
Right.
so his ancestors. Have you ever watched Vikings?
Yeah.
So do you know on Vikings the character Rollo?
Yep.
So the timeline of Vikings is very. They've done a good job of getting like historical people and then sticking them all in the same timeline. Yeah. So the timeline really is not real, but a lot of the events are real. So on Vikings, Rollo goes to France and they try and invade France, and then he gets made like a lord. And,
Did he marry into kingdom kind of thing?
Exactly. Yeah. They give him Normandy. So that is true. That really happened. So yeah, these Vikings, they attacked France. Rollo was their leader, if you like. He was given Normandy. Later he became known as like the Duke of Normandy. And then, he had a son, and that went on down to William. William came over and, became William the Conqueror, took over. So the Normans who, then intermingled with the Anglo-Saxons, and that's who we are today. We're kind of that hybrid version of them, came from the Vikings. So in a roundabout way, we're all a bit Viking.
Bit mixed.
That's it. So that is sort of probably where you get that from, and hopefully we can delve into that a bit more.
Delve in.
Delve
with me, mate.
Yeah, but so obviously your surname is Pearson.
Yep.
Do you have any idea where that name comes from?
I looked at it, and my dad used to say you're a pear picker's son. But is it like technically classed as Pierre's or Peter's son?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Pierre, which would be like the French version of Peter, and similar to what the Vikings. If your dad was called Gustav, you'd be called Gustafsson.
Yeah.
And so on. My dad was called Peter, so I would be called Daniel Peterson.
Yeah.
And but obviously at a certain time they fixed surnames just to make it easier to tax people, basically. So your surname would have been fixed. So at some point you would have had an ancestor called Pierre, and his son was Pearson.
Son, yeah.
And then that surname at that point would have been fixed.
Right.
And then that name would have got carried down to you.
So I'm not a pear picker's son then?
You're nothing to do with picking pears, unfortunately.
I thought a bit like the man from Del Monte had been in.
Yeah.
Is that really why they did it? Just to tax people?
I believe so, yeah, because it was around about, going back to William the Conqueror, when he came over, when he took over, it was mainly his cousins. He came over with about 30 of his cousins, and he put them all in charge of different parts of the country, and they intermingled with like the locals and stuff. And then, he just wanted to know who lived where, who had what, and it's almost like a census record. He goes out there and, gets lists of people, and he just wanted to extort them for money. And, having a family, knowing that is your name. So the surnames come from, a lot of surnames come from like place names. So if you was, Josh from Morley, you'd be called Joshua de Morley. And then your family would be the de Morley family, So that's how a lot of surnames originated from places. And then other surnames came from your occupation. So,
like carpenter and things like that. And
exactly, yeah, carpenter. I did a Jewish family tree, and one of the surnames is Schumann, and it was because they made shoes. Yeah, So Nigel Schumacher, for example. So Schumacher is just the German version of shoemaker.
Right.
So his ancestors, one of his ancestors was a shoemaker. I actually found 3 Jewish brothers, and this was in Leeds. It's a big Jewish cemetery, isn't it, in Leeds? I don't know if
I'm
you know.
not sure.
I don't know if you know this. Yeah,
it's on Gelded Road, isn't it?
Yeah, on Gelded Road. So there's a big Jewish cemetery, and I actually found 3 brothers, and I think one was called Schumann, one was called Schuster, and one was called Schumacher. It was like they all adopted. They were all shoemakers, but they all adopted a slightly different surname.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get people who are related, but the surnames aren't exactly the same. So, because I get people say, "Oh no, I can't be related to him because he's got 2 L's in his name and I've only got 1." But when you go back in time, a lot of times those people still do connect.
Right.
So names evolve over time, you see.
How just like for a reference then, obviously you're doing genealogy, like you did our family tree, you've done Ben's family tree, you've done a bunch of other people's family trees.
Yeah.
How much time does it take going through the records? Because that's a misconception, isn't it? Like they were just asking next door, they were saying, I thought you could just type your name into Ancestry and send your DNA off and boof, it's done. I'm like, no.
No.
I said,
there's
like,
a lot of work.
How long do you need to spend to find out the information you're going to give us today, or
I mean, I've been working on this for months. And I mean, I still work on mine every single day. Like, it's never ending. I'm giving you this information, but there's so much more. You could keep going and going and going. It's literally never ending. So obviously at some point you've got to, if I'm doing other people's family trees, I find a place where I'm happy that I can sort of cut it off and be like, that's a nice amount. But if you wanted to do more, you could go forever, literally. But it is tough, and sometimes I'll be stuck on, a certain person's name, and I just can't find, why can't I find this person's dad? There's no record of him, and then you figure out his name's spelt wrong, or he took his, and this happens in your case. We spoke about this at one point in the Pearson line. The Pearson name comes from the mother rather than the father, and this happens a lot of times. Maybe the parents weren't married, or, families just fall out. And, maybe the father disappears, so they just adopt the mum's name. So they might have been born under one name, the father's surname, the birth record might say that, but then they live the rest of their life under the mother's surname. And it can be confusing, but it's very rewarding, when you just crack it and you think, that's it, that's the mystery there.
What I've looked at is when you've done my family tree, and it goes from your mum and dad into 2, then it goes into 4, then it goes into 8,
it doubles every generation.
And it doubles each time, and I think you've gone back. What last time you told me, you've gone back 8, and then when I had a quick click, and because I don't read it, because I didn't want to read it because I want to know about it. It's just spread on this page, and it's really, really confusing.
Yeah,
because you're thinking like you're not actually. You might be. Yeah, I'm a Pearson, and then my mum's a Holmes, and you actually inside you think I'm definitely going to be a Holmes.
Yeah,
and then you realise Holmes might only go back 4 generations, and then you become a Peterson, or you become a Clark or something, and technically that then goes back so long.
Yeah,
and you're thinking like, well, it's only because they married out of that family into a man family, in theory.
Yeah.
Took the Holmes name. That only lasted 3-4 generations, and that's what hurts then, because you're thinking like, I don't really know who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what's, like I said, the exciting part.
Most people don't know like who the great grandparents are. When I ask people, when people want to start the family tree, I'm like, oh well, give me all your grandparents and great grandparents' names, and we'll start with that. And they're like, oh, I don't really know. So when you get past that, even more so, like people have no idea. And
I know nothing about. I know my dad is Tommy and his mum's Annie, but we've never had a relationship with them. My granddad used to slap my dad about, so we've literally never had a relationship. So I know nothing about the Pearsons, but I know up to, I think it's my granddad's at Harry, my great granddad's Isaac, because we've named my son Isaac Harry.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's either William or something after that, and that's it.
Yeah,
it's just it's gone into nothingness.
That's it, yeah, because it don't really get passed down, does it? And the great thing about this is, you can give this information to your children, and they can give it to theirs, and
I'm buzzing.
Yeah, and it just gets, it just grows exponentially then. So, because that's what people used to do with like you say, the family Bible. They would write down the generations in there, and so it's always cool when people say to me, "I've got a family Bible." I think that's great. It's a great bit of information because that's first-hand knowledge. When all my grandparents are dead now, and they died with so much knowledge.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger driving around, my dad would say, "Oh, that's your cousin, that's so and so," and
no one cares to that.
Yeah, you just don't know.
Go on then, hit me with it.
So on the actual Pearson line, we got back to Abraham Pearson. He was born about 1635. So he's your 10th great grandfather.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So what I tried to do is get as many lines as I could back to your 6th great grandfather, which you have great grandparent, should I say, and you have 256 of them. Like every generation doubles, so we all have 256 6 great grandparents.
I think of it like Back to the Future when he goes back and he's in Western, and you think like there's only going to be one, and you're not. You imagine going back to the Future, and Back to the Future 3, and you've got 250 people.
Yeah, that's it. So it's there's a lot of avenues to delve into.
And the main one, obviously, like I said, the Pearson is Abraham.
Yeah, so when we're looking at the direct, I always like to take your name, somebody's name, and see how far that Pearson name or whatever surname it is, how far we can trace it. So after Abraham, the trail goes kind of cold. So that's around 1635. And what you've got to think is sort of before the 1600s, there weren't really any records for normal people. There was nothing, and the only people who did get recorded in sort of genealogies and family history were noble families. So noble families are people who are connected.
Yeah.
So they've got, maybe they're connected to royalty or they own lots of land, So that's the thing today is we're trying to get before him. Right. Which we are going to do. We are going to get back there. That's it. But back in Abraham's time, so we're talking 1600s, around about 1650s. I think it was in Leicestershire. Was a group started called that we know as the Quakers. Right. Yeah, the Quakers. Their real name was the Religious Society of Friends, but I think the guy who founded them, George Fox's name, he said to a judge. He famously said to a judge. To, quake in front. You should quake in front of God's judgment, right? And that became a thing. The quake thing became known as Quakers. So that Quakers is kind of like a nickname for like this religious group. So the Pearsons, back in that time, married into these Quaker families, and so as in like religious families? Yeah, they were religious. Yeah, so it was just a religious group that obviously still exists today. I think they live it's like a very simplistic life, kind of they all wear plain clothes and stuff like that. A bit like the Amish. Yeah, very similar. You see it on Quaker Oats, don't you? Yeah, Quaker Oats. Yeah. So you'll have to have them for your breakfast now. But that is kind of in terms of like the Pearson line, that is what they were doing back from the 1600s onwards. They were Quakers. So we started Bible bashing. Bible bashers, yeah. So get your Bible, get your Quaker Oats. Bloody hell. Yeah. So that's kind of gives you an idea of what kind of people they were, what they was doing back then. And this is all in Yorkshire. Like literally, when I'm going through your family, we're going back generation. Like you say, Baildon, literally it's Yorkshire. Yeah. Like he's so Yorkshire, it's unreal. So they're, in theory, what you class as good stock then? They are good stock. They're religious, they're good people. Right, good, thank you. so at some point, the Pearsons were good people. At some point, yeah. So you're safe for now. You're safe. And then, so through these group of Quakers, obviously you're getting lots of marriages and to different people. At some point, they intermarry to the Holland family. Now, my wife is actually, her maiden name is Holland.
Right. Are we related?
No.
Oh,
No.
that'd have been good,
But
wouldn't it?
you know what I thought? I thought as soon as I seen that Holland name, I thought this could be. I'm going to bring a picture of my wife. Like, do you know this? Do you know this woman?
It's like me with long hair.
It's a good job it's not.
But no. So there's a few different branches of this Holland family, and it's known as like a Norman family. You know that came over. You know, time of invasions, 1066. So the Holland family that my wife is related to is the Lancashire Hollands, which there's a place in Lancashire called Up Holland, and that is, you know, where that family's from. They either gave their name to the place or they took their name from the place. Yeah. So she's related to them. So I started digging into the Hollands that you're related to, and again, it is a pretty important family. It's a noble family, so they had a little bit of pull in the area. They were basically lords, and there is still a place, and they're from Lincolnshire.
Right.
So this is you're related to the Lincolnshire Hollands.
Right.
So the Lincolnshire Hollands were like lords in the area, owned land. You know, they were pretty well to do. Now we get to Elizabeth Holland. She's your 14th great grand aunt.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your 14th great grandfather's sister is called Elizabeth Holland.
Right.
She was known as Bessie, and
Did you say Betty or Bessie?
Bessie. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And she was handmaiden to Anne Boleyn.
Fuck off.
Yeah. So Anne Boleyn was the second wife, I believe, of Henry VIII, and.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So she was a handmaid. So, she would have been a young girl. I believe she was actually like a concubine for Anne Boleyn's uncle or something like that.
What's a concubine?
Yeah,
I'm simple here.
Yeah. So a mistress, basically.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
So that's how she ended up in kind of like the royal court, if you like. But yeah, she was with Anne Boleyn. On the 19th of May, 1536, she accompanied Anne Boleyn to the scaffold where she was executed, where Anne Boleyn had her head chopped off. So she actually witnessed that. She was there. She escorted her there. And,
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I literally don't know what to say. So my 14th great granddad.
Yeah, his sister Elizabeth Holland. Like I say, this is the Holland of Lincolnshire.
Yep.
You know, there's lots of information about them. They all kind of stem from this guy called Ralph Holland, who was around. He was friends with William the Conqueror, you know, around that time. And then they just ended up in Lincolnshire. So.
And then she was there when she was a seamstress or lady in waiting, whatever you want to call it. And
exactly, yeah.
And she was there when Anne Boleyn got executed.
She was, yes.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a little bit of information online and stuff, but yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool connection. So you're talking Henry VIII, you know, 1500s when he was the gaffer.
And who was she knocking off then?
So I believe it was like some duke. It was,
right.
And again, she was a mistress. She was just a young lass who was just like, I'm not going to say forced, but she was injected into this situation where she was a mistress for a duke. Again, I believe it was, I think it was Anne Boleyn's uncle or something like that, which is how she ended up in that position.
And is there still somewhere you can go? Like when they said there were a duke or they had land, did they have not like a stately home, or is there somewhere, you know, like Harewood House? Is there somewhere you can go?
Yeah. So there's still a lot of places in Lincolnshire that relate to this family and stuff like that. So yeah, there's going to be so many places as we look through this tree that you're going to be able to go and you're going to be able to see. It's going to be unreal. You're going to be able to basically tour around England and check places. And I think when you know that your family's connected to a certain place, it just makes it a little bit different, you know.
Well, where were Anne Boleyn executed? What about Tower of London?
She was in the Tower of London, and I'm not exactly sure. Is it Westminster? I believe. I think they had it outside, didn't they? They had like the big scaffold. They put her on it, and you know, she said a few prayers, tied her hair up, you know, and I believe she just knelt there, rested her head on the block, and it does say that they took her head off with one shot, one blow, which is...
I've gone right like shivers up my spine kind of thing.
Yeah. But again, she was there. She was your 14th great grand aunt, and she witnessed that.
Can I just tell you now that I'm 48-year-old. You are changing with what you're talking about now. You are changing the course of my life and making an impact when you think you can't really get much more impactful in your life. You are creating an impact in my life that's never going to be the same again. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
That is mind-blowing. That is absolutely... So I'm going to go home now with my family and say, guess what, kids?
Yeah.
Tower of London it is.
I've just checked it. Anne Boleyn was executed on the Tower of London on May 19th, 1536, and she was beheaded by the sword of a French swordsman. So
we're a French guy. It'd be nice to know his name, wouldn't it? And I bet you wouldn't want him to know your name, would you, if you were an executioner?
And is this through the Pearsons?
This is on the Pearson. So this is, like I say...
we married into this family from Pearson's side.
So it's the Pearsons, the Quakers, and it's through this... It's this Quaker family that had intermarried. So that all these Quakers from the Yorkshire area had intermarried to this Holland family from the Lincolnshire area, obviously not too far away. In fact, where I live in Thorn is kind of on the border between Lincolnshire and Yorkshire as well. So there you go. Wow. What a mad connection. So
I'm in Lincolnshire next week.
Yeah. So what I'll try and do is I'll have a look at some of the places where these Hollands lived. Because what happens a lot of times is the places disappear.
Yeah.
You know, the place names and stuff like that. So
wow.
There's definitely a bit of hunting around to do for
you.
Well,
that's the first one that shocked me out of my boots.
That's the first one. So now what we'll do, and you already know this, but we'll go over it because it's important to your story, is we'll jump to the maternal side.
Yep.
And we end up with your great-great-grandmother, Mary Pickering. So this is the Pickering family, and we've spoke about this, so you know what's to come. So
they're married to the Holmeses in theory. That through that side, that's my mum's.
So your mum's side, the home side. Yes, we end up with Mary Pickering, your great grandmother. Sorry, and she was born 1893 in Yorkshire, of course, like all your family seem to be born. So her great grandfather, born 1799 in Silkstone, which is near Barnsley,
right,
was Joseph Pickering.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoke about this guy. Joseph Pickering was a little bit naughty, wasn't he?
A bit of a shitbag, really, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. And he got done... Him and his brothers, actually. So there was him and 3 brothers. And they were done for grand larceny. So do you still use that term in the police?
No. Well, there'll be a bylaw somewhere hiding away. I mean, you can get done for being something with a horse and in possession of a horse with a whip, and it's like a York law from 1312 or something.
Yeah, there's just never been.
Yeah. But there'll be something to do with larceny, but no one ever uses something like that.
So there's larceny and grand larceny. So apparently grand larceny is when you're stealing something that's worth more than 1 shilling.
Wow.
Yeah. So if it's more than 1 shilling, it's classed as grand larceny, which the penalty is a lot worse. And I believe 1 shilling is 5 pence.
Right.
That's what it equates to. Now, obviously, 5 pence in 1800 is going to be a little bit different to 5 pence in modern times.
So you could be talking about, in theory, £30, something like that.
I would guess, something like that.
Right.
But still, back then, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And him and his brothers were done for grand larceny, and they were unfortunately sentenced to death.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so they were stealing. I believe his brothers, they all stole money, clothing, sheets, bacon. If
you're going to steal something, you might as well steal bacon.
Yeah. They robbed somebody's. I think they robbed somebody's house, and they took all these things, and they were sentenced to death.
So basically, from a police interceptor and spending 19 years on the force fighting crime, my ancestors have now been sentenced to death for crimes.
That's it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel uncomfortable. What are you laughing at, Josh?
But maybe that's why you became a police officer, because you were, it's some kind of redemption. You wanted to.
I want to make a better tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So it was Joseph.
So it was Joseph, and his oldest brother was called John.
Right.
Now we'll come back to him in a second.
Right, all right.
Again, there was four of them, and so this is 1800s. So in 1830, so his three brothers got sent out before him. Actually, they got sent out on one ship, and then Joseph was sent to Australia. So this is what happened to a lot of people. They were sentenced to death, but instead of being killed, they were sent basically to work in Australia and build like the colony there. So we sent all the criminals there. Now you can't get into Australia if you've got a criminal record.
So Australia's built on criminals, not on criminals, but the criminals.
The criminal families, yeah.
Built up what they did. And were they ever released there, or did they work and then die?
Yeah, they sort of, they basically lived a life there. They took wives, they had children, they lived. And yeah, so it was better than a death sentence in England. Really.
Go on holiday there.
Yeah,
now,
exactly. We were like, send them to that mad island where no one wants to go, and now everyone wants to go and work there and live there, and life's great. So,
And what year was this? They went.
So 1830 is when Joseph was sent. He was sent on a prison hulk, which is just a massive ship called the Marquis of Huntley. So you can find pictures of this and stuff like that. So yeah, you can see the actual ship that he travelled on. So it must have been terrible conditions. I don't know how long it would have taken on a ship, back in the 1800s to get to Australia, but I would guess that it wouldn't be a pleasant journey, and I would also guess that people would have died on that journey.
A bit like a P&O ferry now.
Yeah, basically, I went on a cruise the other month. Don't remind me that I were on a cruise the other month. It was terrible.
How bad were it?
Just not for me.
Were it going up and down? And
when you're trying to eat, you got a nice steak dinner in front of you, and you can just see the
the
water doing this. But Joseph wouldn't have had a steak dinner. He'd have had some, some slop to eat, because he was a criminal. And yes, he was sent there, like I say, sentenced to death. He left behind his wife and 5 children.
Wow.
Obviously, one of those children would have been your ancestor. So, and I always say this to people, like, because you think you've got so many, great grandparents, and it goes back so many generations. But if just one of those people weren't here, they died, then you wouldn't exist. Because
I think
just one of those.
I know. I think that's so bizarre when you're talking to family members, and I know it's people's choices not to have children, but when you look at through the history of time from when man began, one of them is your relative.
Yeah.
And then you'll get to a certain line. I'm not having children. I'm ending.
Yeah, and it just ends.
You're thinking that. Is it selfish? Is it like a bit of a selfish act? It's not to carry it on. Is that what we're here to do?
To procreate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess there comes a point where, if everyone's having kids and, these generations keep getting bigger and bigger, eventually, can we sustain that as a...
It's going to go right shit anyway, isn't it?
But they're saying that we are underpopulated at the moment.
Underpopulated?
Yeah, so like we're on track to be... So like this, Elon Musk is like doing his bit in and out to try and have as many children as possible.
Right.
And apparently like China's... in decline.
China's got. I thought they had restrictions anyway.
Yeah, but their restrictions have now hindered them, because I think they could only have
2, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2, and it had to be like I can't remember.
No, I think people prefer boys.
Right.
So what they would do is they would try and flog the.
But I'm sure that
What a market!
Yeah. I'm sure. Like I've heard somewhere that the actual population, like we need to start procreating more.
Oh well, best get on it, haven't we?
I've done my bit.
I've done my bit.
Yeah, there we go. I've only got 1, so I need to
get going.
Need to book my ideas up.
Stop spending time at gym and get home and give your lass.
Instead, it's not a weird podcast. This.
So Joseph Pickering, he died in 1836. So he was in Australia for 6 years, grafting, and I'm guessing it's hard labour. They're getting, they're not just having they're not just in the sun with a shirt off having a nice time. Yeah, they would have been grafting hard. They had a life there. So again, it's better than getting a death sentence, but all that for, stealing a few wares.
So I've got relatives now in Australia.
100%, yeah. And the Pickering family, lots of them went to America as well. So yeah, they really did spread out. So yeah, You've got lots of international Pickering connections.
Yeah, you get on that, don't you?
Yeah. So there's lots out there. But there's one. So going back to the older brother now, John Pickering, and now again, this comes down to looking at, there were thieves, they were nicking stuff, and they got sentenced to death, which is crazy. But there is a theory. So I've been looking online, and there is a little theory about this family because they were well known in the area.
As in for crime?
In like the Barnsley area. Not so much for crime, they were just known people because the older brother, John, there was a rebellion. I think it was called the West Riding Rebellion or something back in the day, where it was lots of workers were underpaid, and and there was a little bit of a rebellion kind of against the government. And he was one of the leaders, this John Pickering. So,
right.
he would be, your great granduncle. And lots of people were arrested and, put on trial for it. But he wasn't. He got away with it.
Right.
Now, a few years later, him and his brothers all get caught nicking stuff. And then all of a sudden they're sentenced to death. So one of the theories is that was kind of the government shafting them for their previous misdemeanors, encouraging people to revolt against the government.
Right, so it's been not set up, but the idea.
Yeah, so a bit of a conspiracy theory, really, there involving your family. So a bit of corruption.
You never know how far it goes back when you do bang a drum and who hears it, because you start looking at stuff like Peaky Blinders, and I know half of it might be far fetched, but then within 2 minutes you're rubbing shoulders with government and prime ministers, and then I always get told as well. You probably say you clarify this for me, but the further you go back, the less the population was. So we look at it like we imagine it being how it is now, but it wasn't. It was
less people.
There were a lot less people. There were far more space.
Yeah.
So if you were quite influential 250, 300 years ago, that drum that you banged is echoed, even though there's no social media, and people do know, don't they?
Yeah, that's it. And people didn't, obviously, again, your family centred massively around the Yorkshire area. People didn't move around too much, so there was kind of, everybody knew each other's business, and everybody was insulated a little bit to what was going off. So
feels like Eldwick where I live now.
Yeah. So sticking on, so we're deep into the maternal lines now, deep on your mum's side. We end up, and this is just, obviously, you've got the criminal faction there, the Pickerings, they're the outlaws of the family. But then we go to the Pullens. So on your mum's side, you're related to a big Yorkshire family. There's lots of documentation on this family, the Pullen family. So your fourth great grandfather was called Samuel Pullen, and he was born 1800 in Leeds. So basically the same time as this Joseph Pickering.
Yep.
He's around. So in 1862, he is an old man. He's 62 years old, and he's in the Swan with Two Necks pub in Hunslet, which is now housing. It's been made into flats. I did have a look for this because I thought it'd be very cool for you to actually go to this pub. I thought we should have done on the podcast in the Swan with Two Necks Inn. But he was in that pub, and he was drinking. He was an old man. He was drinking with a couple of coal miners, Benjamin Wood and John Hides. So they was drinking, and your grandfather Samuel, he's left the pub. These two young coal miners that have been 30 years his junior have followed him out. One of them has grabbed him in a chokehold while the other's gone through his pockets and nicked his money. Yeah, so the landlady of the pub saw this happen, recognised who the men were. She reported that to the police, and then a man called Sergeant Wainwright apprehended the two men in the George IV pub in Hunslet, which again is unfortunately no longer. That's been knocked down. I think it had fire damages and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's been knocked down. But he found them in there, and when he searched them, they had 1 shilling on them. Again, back to this 5 pence.
Yeah.
Apparently they'd stole 4 shillings from old Sam, and they'd spent 3 shillings in the George IV pub. I don't know how many pints that would have gotten back in the day, but I reckon quite a few, to be fair. And they were both sentenced to 12 months hard labour. So they didn't get the death penalty like the others.
Fucking hell.
But yeah, so that's your fourth great grandfather, and he's the victim of crime this time.
One family's going out committing havoc, robbing everyone.
Yeah.
And other side of the family is getting robbed.
Yeah. So you've got both sides of the coin there.
But police are involved and police.
Yeah, and I think it's nice. So we've got the newspaper article which names this Sergeant Wainwright, and I thought that was pretty cool.
That's good design,
that we've got this literally the newspaper article, and then I managed to find the the day that the other men went to court, and like I say, they got sentenced 12 months hard labour. I were hoping they'd been sent to Australia. Maybe they'd have
same shit, looking at each other. One of my friends is a sergeant, and he's Sergeant Jason Wainwright.
Imagine if they're related.
That's what I mean. That'd be good if you found out.
That'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, found out it were his ancestor that looked after my ancestor.
Yeah, that's mad.
And this were my grandfather.
This is your fourth great grandfather. So great grandfather back in the 1800s.
Wow.
So that's the Pullen family. Again, what you find is there's certain names that crop up in certain areas. So Pullen is like a big Yorkshire family, and when I'm doing trees, I always spot certain family names that stand out, that they're from a certain area.
Does it come back round then sometimes? Would you say sometimes some names come together, say like Pullen, then they come out because they're remarrying to someone else?
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
They come back.
And back then you had a lot of like cousins marrying. I mean, even today, but back then, because it was like smaller communities, you would have been brought up alongside your cousins, and sometimes they would have intermarried. So think of it like this. When I say about every generation back, your amount of ancestors double, yeah? So you've got 2 parents, 4 grandparents, then it goes 8, 16, 32, and so on. So once you get back so far, a lot of those grandparents are the same people.
Yeah.
Because if it just doubled for everybody everywhere in the world, that would mean that back in the day we'd need like millions and millions of people for this to work. Obviously, it didn't start like that. There was a lot less people, and the generations got bigger. So your 30th great grandfather on one side could also be your 30th great grandfather on the other side. It's just it's just a numbers game. It's definitely going to happen just because there's so many people. So we are all connected distantly in different ways. And
I thought you were going to tell me we're like brothers now.
Oh, well.
I have cousins, and you're going to teach me how to fight for a discounted rate.
Family discount. So you're related to this Pullen family of Yorkshire. So it's through them. And again, what we're trying to crack is this 1600s. Because once you sort of crack that, then you're onto a winner, really. And again, it's finding families that have documentation, because again, your average peasant couldn't read or write, and wouldn't have any reason to have their family documented. So we know that once you get past 1500, it's for a reason. It's because there was somebody important. So on that Pullen side, we can go back even further. We can go back to the 1500s.
Go on then.
We get to your 13th great grandfather. He was called Walter Pullen, and he was the steward of Fountains Abbey in Ripon. So
why does that sound familiar?
You can actually go there. I've not been. I believe it's an English heritage site. So I'm an English heritage member. It's good. There's lots of places around the UK where you can go, and I believe it's on that. I remember seeing it on that list and thinking, I'll call there when I'm heading up through North Yorkshire. So definitely take your family there. Again, he was Walter Pullen was the steward, so he would have looked after the place.
So he runs all Fountain Abbey and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So that's
14 generations ago.
That's a nice connection. Yeah. So he's your 13th great grandfather.
Wow.
And so that again, it's a place that's you can go there, and with that family connection now, it's just a nice.
Knowing they've been walking around doing stuff.
Yeah, they've been there. Yeah, so wow. Yeah, it's obviously it's a ruin, but there's something there. There's something to see. So
that's good as that.
Definitely check that out. That's just in Ripon. Now, he was married to a lady called Marjorie Slingsby. Now, Slingsby is actually a name, again, Yorkshire-based name that appears on both sides of your family. So on your paternal side, there's also Slingsbys as well,
right,
which I got back so far, so I've not been able to connect him to this maternal side. But again, you're heavily connected to a family called Slingsby. So Marjorie Slingsby is your 13th great-grandmother. Her father was called John Slingsby, and he died in the Battle of Flodden in 1513. So he actually fought in battle.
What's the Battle of Flodden then?
So the Battle of Flodden Flodden is in the Northumberland area, I believe, and it was one of the obviously England against Scotland. We've had so many battles,
right?
But
it's a bit like a civil war kind of thing.
So it was part of a series of battles against Scotland.
And what year was this roughly?
So this is 1513. So he died. So the English troops won that battle. I believe there was massively. I think there was 26,000 English troops, and the Scottish had about 30 to 40,000 troops. So there was outnumbered, but they managed to get the victory. But unfortunately, your 14th great grandfather, he died in that battle. So again, there's lots of history. You can, that's something you can really delve into about that battle. And obviously,
oh my God,
it's getting, you're talking 1500. So this is when they're fighting with, swords and pole axes and things like that.
A bit like William Wallace kind of days. Sort of thing.
So there would have been, literally, they're in the mix. There's no hiding away and shooting each other with guns. This is like
in it and fighting.
They would have been in it. So to know that one of your ancestors, direct ancestors, because we're focusing on the direct people here. You've got cousins and all these offshoots, and you can go forever. But this is, so
you could go to the ground where this battle's taking place in Flodden and stand there knowing that one of your great granddads has passed away there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy,
I want to look at that. I want to go there.
Definitely. And again, so this is the time of back to Henry VIII. You've got a lot of connections to Henry VIII. So obviously, on the other side, we had the handmaiden for Anne Boleyn. So now you've got this John Slingsby would have been fighting on behalf of Henry VIII.
So one of his soldiers.
Yeah, one of his soldiers. So
that's mad. That's
connection.
Mad,
back in the 1500s. So. Again, just the fact that his name's, he's recorded as fighting in the battle and dying in the battle, you know that he's a connected guy. He's not just a random peasant who turned up with a stick and
he's actually in there as a full-grown soldier.
He's a serious character back then.
Right.
So he's connected. His great grandfather is a man called Sir John Bigod.
This is Slingsby's.
This is John Slingsby. So his great-great-grandfather would then be your 16th great-grandfather.
So you're going back a long way now.
Yeah, so we're going back another couple of generations there. So we've cracked the 1500s. We're before the 1500s now. So this Sir John Bigod was the Sheriff of Yorkshire.
Fuck off!
Yes, which is pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the Sheriff of Nottingham?
Yeah,
the
like you would have sheriffs.
Yeah,
we'd have sheriffs in different areas, and he was the Sheriff of Yorkshire. So the Bigod family were an Anglo-Norman family. So they had, back in the day, the Bigods were sort of, they got the favour of William the Conqueror. He put them in, charge of certain land and stuff. So,
right, this is going to sound absolutely... So there's a lad called Dave Collery who I used to work with, and he retired as an inspector recently, and he used to take piss out of me saying, hey, up at Sheriff of Shipley.
You can claim that
Sheriff
title
of Belden, Sheriff of Bingley and this sort of thing. When I used to walk in the briefing room and go, all right, Sheriff, only it's a piss take, proper cowboy kind of thing. All right, Sheriff. So my 16th great-granddad was the Sheriff of Yorkshire.
That is correct, yes.
That is absolutely mental. And when I say sheriff, does it mean police? I don't mean as in they want a police force, or does it mean debt collector?
So it's more like a local leader,
right?
You know what I mean? So he would have just been in charge of that area, I guess, collecting taxes,
for the government
and settling disputes as well. If you had a grievance with somebody, he'd be the guy to go to.
And what's he called?
So this is Sir. So he's knighted Sir John Bigod.
Fucking hell!
Yes.
Bow down to me, people.
Yes, there you go. And it's once we get into this, so it's through these families. So we know the Bygods are a Norman family. So knowing that, we know we can start to get back even further now.
And this is all through my mum's side.
This is all on your mum's side now. So everything we're talking about now is on your mum's side. But again, like I said, the Slingsby family. So we've gone through the Pullen. So we've gone through the home side on your mum's to the Pullen family.
Yep.
Into the Slingsby family, into the Bygod family. That's kind of how it's gone.
Yeah.
But we know that there's Slingsbys also on your paternal side. So you may be connected two ways to this same line. So this Sir John Bygod, this sheriff, his great-great-grandfather, so we're going back again.
Jesus, how far? This is like... So this is my 16th, 17th. This is my 19th great granddad.
So we're getting back there into the we're getting back through the years now. Again, into this Norman family. He was the third Earl of Norfolk. So now we're getting into earls. We're getting into some serious nobility.
Am I going to be like royalty?
Basically, yeah. So again, once you get into these sort of like Norman families, these important families, they all intermarried with each other. There was lots of marriages were arranged basically for land and for power.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it all is. So once we get into it, we can really.
So just let me clarify this. So is it my 19th or 20th? Would you say great granddad? So
we've got John Bygod. So his great great grandfather. So we've got
16, 17.
So we've got 60. So he's your 16th.
Yep.
So we've got his great great grandfather. So father, grandfather, great grandfather, great great grandfather.
So 20th.
So 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th.
So my 20th great granddad is the Earl of Norfolk.
He is the third Earl of Norfolk. Yes.
Does that mean he's the third one, as in like his granddad, then his dad, and then it's him?
Yeah. So sometimes it gets passed to different families or whatever, but. I believe in that case it was his father who was the second Earl, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Trip down to Norfolk.
Royal Ben over there.
I tell you what, at least it's not Scarborough. If you're listening, you're from Scarborough. Sorry. I know. So I'm third Earl of Norfolk.
And the Sheriff of Yorkshire.
Yorkshire.
Yeah, so you've got some good connections
and Anne Boleyn's mistress, kind of handmaiden.
And then you've got a load of criminals as well who've got
and I've got shitbags. Oh, God. It's always got shitbags, hasn't it?
So it always comes back to them.
I'll tell you what, my kids are going to love this.
Yeah.
Apart from the swearing, that they're not going to listen to, but my brother's going to be amazed, and I'm going to go through it with my brother. But yeah, my kids are going to love this when they're older.
Yeah, that's it. And we've got it all. It's all on Ancestry, so you can print that off, and it's all on there, ready to be passed down. So
wow.
Yeah,
I might do a video on this myself then now.
Pretty cool. Yeah, and like what I would love to do eventually is take people to these places. Imagine I could put a blindfold on you, take you in a car, and we could have got out.
That sounds a bit sketchy.
We could have got out. Yeah, exactly. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, you get to Fountains Abbey, and here you go. This is where your ancestors lived and worked and stuff. So. Yeah, that'd be cool to do, wouldn't it? To visit these places.
What is strange is because of the 20th, there are going to be so many other person's great granddad.
Yeah,
It will, but they'll never know because they haven't done what we've done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because we've done what we've done.
Exactly.
It's mine.
Yeah,
it belongs to me now.
That's it, and it's all. We're all connected to these people. When we go back, we're all connected to important people. But it's finding that line that. And that exact line is yours. That's your personal connection to them, isn't it? Because it's like, they might have had 10 children, and it's like, which one of them children did you connect to? And then who, they had children, and it goes on and on. And that line is very personal to you, even though many people might be connected to them. It's like the way in which you connect to them is your...
My brother's been married more times than Ross from Friends, and he's got more kids than Bernardo, so I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's like all these different mums to the different kids and stuff, but yeah.
But it's again, your average person doesn't know, and it's just the knowing and the understanding of how you connect to these people.
Have you got it further about that?
We have got it further.
What year's Earl of Norfolk then? What year would you be looking at that? Do you know?
Yeah, so we're talking around about sort of like the 1300s.
Right.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So, anyway, his wife is a lady called Maud Marshall.
This is the Earl.
This is the Earl. Now, Marshall, again, we'll come into a name. Okay? So, what is a marshal? A marshal.
Cop.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've got the sheriff, and now you've got a surname of Marshall.
It's running through my veins, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's mad. It's like DNA. It's like DNA memories. You know,
I
that's
was
what
made for this.
that's
Literally,
what
I was made.
That's what I like to call it. DNA memories. Okay. So she's from the Marshall family. So the Marshall family got their surname. Again, we'll go back to the start where I was talking about where surnames originate from. So the Marshall surname is from their job. Okay? It comes from the Marshall family job. And they were marshals to the king. So the marshals were, the king's stewards, basically. They looked after, they were protectors.
Of the king?
Of the king, of the king's family.
Which king?
Right. Well, here we go. So your 23rd great-grandfather was the first Earl of Pembroke. So you got another Earl. Pembroke's in Wales, right? I believe.
So I've got another. This is another one.
Yeah, and this is through the same, the same by-God line. Again, Sir Hugh was married to Maud Marshall. So this Marshall family took their name from being the protectors. So again, your 23rd great-grandfather was the first Earl of Pembroke. He was known, his nickname was the Protector, and he was called William Marshall. Now, that probably doesn't mean that much to you, but he is a very, very important man, and he's very well documented. If you go on YouTube now, you will find hundreds of videos about this man.
And he was the first Earl of Pembroke,
yeah.
and he's my 23rd
great-grandfather. Yes,
Get
that is
in.
the man, William Marshall.
You're worth every penny.
So this is around the 1100s now. I think he was born 1146.
This is a long time ago.
This is a long time ago, yeah.
They didn't even have Betamax or VHS, did they?
So he's around in this time, and again, he's a protector for multiple kings.
Right.
Okay.
As in, when you say protector, do you mean bodyguard? Do you mean army? Do you mean...
Yeah, like a bodyguard, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so he is...
He's a tough nut.
He's in there with them.
Right.
So obviously he was a knight. The Archbishop of Canterbury called him the greatest knight who ever lived.
Bollocks.
Yes, yeah. And again,
are you listening to this, Josh? Are you listening to this out there, people?
Yeah. So if you search for this again, you search for this guy. There's so many videos about him, who he was. So many legends and stories and things like that. So he was an important guy, and he was the marshal to 5 kings. 5 kings.
I'm getting tunnel vision. I'm getting that. My heart's pounding. I'm getting that excited.
Yeah. So, so there was Henry II, the younger Henry, who was a co-ruler. There was King John and Henry III, and then one that definitely stands out that you'll know, Richard the Lionheart. The famous crusader.
Is that?
No, so Richard the Lionheart was the Crusader king who went on the Crusades, in the Holy Land.
No shit.
Yes, yeah. So he was, and there's lots and lots of stories about
like Knights Templar and all the Grail and all that shit.
Do you know anything about the Knights Templar?
No, I watched Angels and Demons, whatever it was.
The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, that's it, Da Vinci Code.
Right, that's interesting. Are you into that? Because I'm really into the Knights Templar.
I'm obsessed, like this, I'm obsessed with history and where it goes, but how far things go back, again, it's like, what do you do, how do you go? But all I know about Crusades is they basically didn't go off to spread the name of Jesus. So basically, I mean, we're still in the Crusades now, it's a bit of a mad topic, but it was basically the fight for the Holy Land. Jerusalem is a holy place for Jews, Christians and Muslims, and we've fought over that, and there's obviously still fighting now over that place, so that's what it were about. Right.
The Knights Templar were again, protectors. They started off as a group that would protect pilgrims. So lots of pilgrims, you wanted to go
homage, and
you wanted to go and pray at the place where Jesus was crucified.
Yep.
So the Templars would accompany you, and you would pay them lots of money for them to be your bodyguards, basically. Yeah. And you would go to the Holy Land, and so the Templars became very, very powerful. They had a lot of money, a lot of land, because they were bringing rich nobility across to the Holy Land. So they made that much money and land that eventually the King of France just executed them all and nicked all the stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, the Inquisition came after him and tortured him, and they was all burnt at the stake. And that's kind of where you get the Da Vinci Code, and it's all about the Templars, and did their legacy carry on? Did they find the Holy Grail? Because the Templars were right in the thick of it in Jerusalem. They dug under where the Temple of Solomon would have been, and the rumors are that they found some secret treasures and stashed it away. And
so, and how did what's he called, the knight?
So he's called William Marshall. William Marshall, yeah. So
go on. I'm not good. I'm waiting.
No. Yeah. So what we're saying, how we got onto that is we were talking about Richard the Lionheart. So he was, again, he was looking after 5 kings, and one of those kings was Richard the Lionheart, who was very famous for leading the crusade, and there was many crusades. But he was part of that. Yeah,
Richard the Lionheart. Then that's Robin Hood king.
No,
in Robin Hood, when he comes back from crusades to marry Maid Marian. It's only not movies.
Yeah.
But that's him in there.
Yeah. Robin Hood is. There's a lot of sort of speculation about Robin Hood. Is he a real person? I know he's got a grave somewhere.
Huddersfield, just around the corner. Yeah.
So there's a lot of speculation, if he is a real historical person.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but in all the movies, they always get the king to marry, and it's always Richard that comes back from the crusades.
Right, yeah. So it will be then. Yeah. So I've not. And that's something I'd like to do, is look into the sort of legendary. You've got these legendary, like King Arthur's another one.
Yeah.
So King Arthur is not a historical king that we know about.
Yeah.
He's like a legendary, and the same with Robin Hood. These are like legendary people that could be an amalgamation of different characters that got made into this person.
Definitely.
Or they could be based on a real actual person, but we just don't have any historical info on them. But yeah, this William Marshall, we do have lots of information. Like I say, if you go onto YouTube, you type his name in there, his videos. On his deathbed, he recounted that he had beaten 500 knights in combat. In these tournaments, to do tournaments where they're fighting and stuff, and
jousting and shit like that.
And all that. Yeah, and apparently he was unbeaten, and he was basically the champion of the country.
This is my granddad.
This is him. Yeah,
I love your granddad.
Yeah, so. He was a sick fighter.
Fuck me.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Oh mate, I'm blown away.
Now,
don't ruin this dream now.
I'm not going to ruin it.
I'm
gonna,
up there.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Again, the Knights Templar. Something I'm very interested in. And so when I saw this William Marshall's name, I instantly recognised it, because again, he's a major character in history. And he actually went on the crusade himself. So in 1183, he was on the crusades. So he was in the Holy Land fighting. Which is,
I can't believe it. I just don't know what. I literally cannot believe everything I've seen on TV, everything I've ever read, everything I've looked at in books, news. I can't believe it. This is my 23rd granddad.
Yeah, so he's actually there doing it. Now, he died in 1219. And
happy death.
Yeah, it was.
You want stakes?
Yeah, no. Oh. It was good, and so in 1219, so he'd been on the Crusades, and on 1219, on his deathbed, he was made a Knight Templar. So So he is actually buried in Temple Church in London, which was the Templar HQ.
Yeah.
So he was buried in the Templar HQ, because of his services to the king, and he was in the Holy Land with the Templars fighting alongside him. Obviously, he was a very good fighter. He was a skilled tournament fighter, and he was a very important man. They, inducted him as a Knight Templar just before he died, and he was given a Templar burial I believe what they used to do is when they used to bury him, they used to cross the legs, like make the sign of a cross. That was that's like a sign of a Templar burial, and they would have an effigy on top with a sword and things like that. Yeah, so on the Da Vinci Code, the church that they go into and they see the effigies of all the knights, this is Temple Church, and this is the effigy of
my granddad,
William Marshall. Yeah,
so my granddad's great granddad's in Da Vinci.
He's in the Da Vinci Code. Yeah, so you'll be watching that now. You'll be watching that now with a bit more enthusiasm.
So I can go to this church anyway, can't
You can go to Temple Church in London, and there's many. Again, this was the Templar HQ. This is not just like some random church. That is why it's called Temple Church.
It's obviously that's the main place.
Yeah, the knights were the Knights of the Temple of Solomon. That was the name, and Danny. Yeah. So he was a Templar. And his effigies there. You can go and visit it. Again, there's lots of information about him.
And is this a good family tree to have then? Because
it's not bad, is it?
This is what I mean.
A Templar.
Let's be honest. You're at top there, aren't you? It's like unless you turn around and say you're full on royalty, and you know what I mean. But that to me, it's like I'm not being funny. I can feel my leg shaking.
Yeah,
I know. And when I've looked at you, don't take this the wrong way. When I've looked at you and you're talking, I've been trained for 19 years to deal with conflict, red mist, to deal with driving at 160 mile an hour in high-speed pursuits, wrestling murderers, badasses and this sort of thing. And I've been fine. And I'm looking at you, and it's like I've got tunnel vision. It's literally, you've shrunk into this tunnel vision thing. My leg's trembling. And it's like you're changing, like I said, you're changing course of my life obviously for the better. But they always say, like, when knowledge is power and stuff. And it's just like, now it's just like, I'm going to leave here a completely different person than what I've come in. Do you realise the power you've got doing that?
Yeah, it's crazy just knowing that you're connected to these people. It just changes your perspective. And this is why I love history, because I know the people I'm connected to and stuff like that. And
this is bizarre, mate.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Can I just also say as well, this is going out on your podcast.
Yes.
If anyone needs this doing, get it done. Get this done, because this is mind-blowing. And to have this feeling, I feel like 7-year-old on Christmas Day, or the night when you're going to bed and Santa's coming. It's like, I want more, but I'm scared of what you're going to tell me. I need more, but I'm scared.
No, it's good. It's mad that you said about the Da Vinci Code and the Templars, because he's.
So everything is connected.
Everything is connected. Yeah. It's crazy, really. Like I say, it's almost like DNA memories get passed on. You know, it's like a distant. You know, something affecting you in the past.
I think I'm going to do a YouTube video then on the sheriff.
Yeah, you got the sheriff. You've got these earls. You've got the Earl of Norfolk.
Earls, which leads to obviously this bloke, and he's the protector stroke. Yeah.
The protecting the kings. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I say, 5 kings. Lots of information out there on him. We could literally do 2-3 hours just talking about this character, William Marshall, and a lot of his. Descendants went on to marry into, big families and stuff. So his granddaughter married the grandfather of Robert the Bruce. King Robert the Bruce,
King
of Scotland. Yeah. So there's.
So hang on, his granddaughter.
So
Marshall's
your
granddaughter.
23rd great grandfather's granddaughter married the grandfather of Robert the Bruce, so that's kind of his
legacy,
and that's just one example. There's a lot more than that. If you dug into his tree,
right?
I'm just showing you that, the cause and effect that these people marry, and there's so many noble families that they marry into. Again, they're all marrying for power, and So
in theory, I'm related to Robert the Bruce somewhere down the line,
very distantly,
Thinly,
yeah. So which is crazy, isn't it?
But I like the fact that this lad's my granddad.
it's not a bad granddad to have, is it? Yeah. Obviously, people would have been rushing to marry his children.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Think about that back in the day. This guy is a Templar. He's fought in the Crusades. He's an unbeaten tournament fighting knight. You would have been...
It's a bit like me, really, patrolling Keighley, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. That's it. You just need a suit of armour. That's what we're going to have to get you. I actually looked, so on the English, and I've seen this before, on the English Heritage website, you can actually buy a replica of his sword.
Right.
Yeah, you can get William Marshall's sword. I think you can get his full suit of armour, based on the armour that he wore. Yeah, so that might be a nice Christmas present to yourself.
I want to contact the church, and I want to contact the people, and I want to say, right, this is me.
Yeah.
And then do something about it. Videos to come. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a good trip, it down to London.
Yeah.
Definitely. Are you coming, Josh?
I think that's a bargain. I've just looked on the English Heritage site and it's 140 quid for that sword. So I think you need to get that ordered, mate.
That's
my great-granddad's sword. Well,
Sir William
Just
Marshall.
take it from him. This is mine.
yeah, it fucking belongs to me. Where's my ring? I want my Templar ring.
I know. Then you'll be getting shipped off to Australia for thieving.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh.
And it's bizarre to think, if he's buried still there,
yeah,
because you don't know what happens over history of time, whether someone had been removed. Obviously, you hope they're going to be still there.
Yeah, he's going to still be there. It's the Temple Church. I think it's. I don't think anyone would have dared.
No, but
back in the day
that's your great granddad 23 times removed.
Yeah, crazy.
And then if you dug him up and you compared DNA, you'd have DNA.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that DNA filters right down to you.
Hell.
So crazy.
He'd probably look at me and go, "Who the fuck are you, lad?" Not in obviously Yorkshire accent.
So that brings us on to his wife. Obviously, he would have had a decent wife. He's a tournament champion. He's not gonna be married to no peasant, is he?
Right.
He's gonna be married to, somebody from good stock. So he was married to Isabel de Clare. So the de Clare family, again, very, very important Norman family.
French family.
Yeah. So when we say Norman, obviously Normandy is northern France. But again, back to the beginning, what we've got to remember is that they were Vikings, basically. You know, this is like a hybrid race. The Normans are like half Viking, half French now.
Yeah.
It's like a different... So when the Normans invaded, it weren't loads of French guys coming in invading.
With onions and garlic.
Although the French, did... I don't think the French particularly liked the Normans, but they were just,
It's how it was, though, isn't it?
Yeah. They disliked the English more, so they joined in with the new cousins, the new Viking really cousins. And
we've never been liked at all, have we, really? Think about it.
There's been so many wars over the years. So we've got Isabel de Clare, so she's your 23rd great-grandmother. So her great-great-grandfather...
Hang on a minute. Yeah, now throwing some cobwebs. So 23rd grandmother.
Yeah, so she was the wife of this William Marshall, yeah. So her great-great-grandfather...
Right.
...was a man called Richard Fitzgilbert, okay? So Fitzgilbert... And you'll know, you might know someone called Fitzwilliam, or, they'll have Fitz in the surname.
Yeah.
So Fitzwilliam, for example, which is a really common one you hear today, Fitzwilliam would mean the son of William.
Yeah.
That's what it means. So Richard Fitzgilbert is Richard, son of Gilbert.
Yes.
Makes sense? So Richard Fitzgilbert came to England in 1066, which is when all the Normans invaded, because he was a Norman and he came over here with his pal.
So my 25th great-granddad, 23rd great-granddad's wife, her great-granddad...
Yeah, so it's your 23rd great-grandmother, her great-great-grandfather.
So is he my great-great-grandfather?
Of course, yeah. He's your direct...
So that's
direct
26, relative. 27, 28, 29.
Yeah, I believe, yeah. So we've got 23rd, her dad, grandfather. So you basically add in this. So it's 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
27.
So your 27th great-grandfather, Richard Fitzgilbert, came over...
In 1066.
In the Norman invasions.
So we're fucking half Viking, half...
He was from a Norman family. Now we're getting back to this DNA thing, aren't we? At the start, it's 16% DNA. Now we know where it comes from. So his dad, obviously, was called Gilbert because he was called Fitzgilbert.
Yeah.
So Gilbert had an interesting job. He was looking after a guy, a bit of a protector again, who would go on to become king. Yeah? So he's looking after a guy called William.
Fuck off. You're not saying...
William the Conqueror. Yeah, so Gilbert, who is your 28th great-grandfather, is William the Conqueror's basically guardian. His guardian, looking after him.
Shit.
Yeah.
Did you know this?
he knows nothing. He's just sat in the corner. He doesn't know anything. He's just a monkey pressing buttons right now.
And this is all traceable.
This is documented. You know, once you get back to this point, it's kind of the middle area that's grey. When we're going through. But once you get back, now we're talking like this documentation is
set in stone.
You can go on Wikipedia and find about this guy. You know, so we're in some serious people now who are well documented because we're getting closer now to.
So my family history technically is like.
We've got it back 1,000 years, basically.
Not really what you class as law enforcement, but protecting guardians.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Gilbert, he was Duke William because he was the Duke of Normandy, and then when he came over, he became King William when he beat Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings. Which is mad. Which is one of my favourite periods in time. I love the Battle of Hastings and everything that happened around it because it basically shaped our country to what it is today.
So do you think he'd have been there at the Battle of Hastings, Gilbert?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, anyway, he's Duke William's guardian. Now, why would he be Duke William's guardian? He must have been very, very close to the family. Well, he was, because Gilbert was William's dad's first cousin. So William the Conqueror's dad, Robert.
Yeah.
Robert's first cousin was this guy, Gilbert. Yeah. So that's why he was put in charge of, looking after him, because he was a blood relative. He weren't just some random guy who said, yeah, we'll get him to look after the Duke. He was...
So I'm related then to William the Conqueror?
Related to his family, yes, which would make William your second cousin 29 times removed. So William so when we say 29 times removed, that it sounds quite weird, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
So 29 times removed just means 29 generations back in time. So he's your second cousin 29 times removed, which would mean he is the second cousin of your 27th great grandfather. Yeah. So
I don't know what to say.
So you're 20.
And Beard were a pirate.
Yeah. So your 27th great grandfather is this guy Richard Fitzgilbert. That's your 27th great grandfather. So again, his dad was William's dad's first cousin, which makes them second cousins. So that's the relationship there.
Wow.
Which is crazy, right?
Wow. And then he came over, made Tower of London, did everything he needed to do over here, and then formulated it.
He just took over, yeah. But again,
and that's
right at the start of this podcast, we spoke about who the Normans were, right?
Yeah.
So what can you remember what I said about the Normans?
Being basically a mix of Vikings.
They were Vikings, yeah. So the Vikings came over and intermingled with the French nobility, and that's where this line comes from. This is the exact family line where William the Conqueror comes from. He is part Viking. So we know William the Conqueror's family is. It's out there. You can research it. And again, lots of us are related to him different ways. Again, we know that you're at least related to him this way. You might be related to him more ways than this, but we know that at least he was your 27th great-grandfather's second cousin. So we know that he's deeply related that way. So William's great-grandfather was a man called Richard the Fearless. So he is the shared grandfather, of
the cousins.
Exactly, yeah. That's how cousins work, innit? So your 30th great grandfather is Duke Richard the Fearless of Normandy, which is pretty cool. His dad.
I don't know what to say. So my 30th great granddad, is the Duke of Normandy.
He is the Duke of Normandy. Yeah, he's over there.
And what's he called? The Duke Fearless.
He's called Richard the Fearless, yes.
So basically he's an animal, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
He's a Viking animal, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's raping and pillaging his way. So when I said I've gone from protectors, I've gone really full circle now.
Full circle. So he's not a Viking. He's from Viking descent, but he's he's the Duke of Normandy. You know what I mean? He's living the Norman lifestyle now, like you see with Rollo in the Vikings, where he gets kind of he becomes civilized.
Yeah.
He's a civilized Viking.
Yeah.
He would have been born in Normandy. Again, so we know Richard the Fearless's father is a man named William Longsword. Okay, that was his father. So William Longsword is born 893 in Normandy.
This is
your 31st great-grandfather.
31st, right.
31st. We're back in 893.
Yep.
And we've got William Longsword. Again, he is another Duke of Normandy.
Right. And obviously it must be called Longsword because he wielded a long sword.
Well, I thought that it might be like a euphemism as well. He could be he could be well endowed.
Oh,
You don't know, do you?
don't run through family, lad.
And then his father, we're talking 893 now.
Yeah.
So, and it's in the 800s where Paris gets invaded by the Vikings. So now we're right
in it.
We're right in there where this got started. So William Longsword's father is Rollo, the Viking who invaded Paris.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
So your 32nd great grandfather is Rollo the Viking. So that is one. And you may be related many other ways to Vikings, but that is at least one way you are related. And
32nd great granddad is Rollo.
Yeah. He came over and
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so he would have been born.
Sorry for my swearing.
No, it's all right.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so and his kind of history is a little bit cloudy. There's some theories to who he was and which family he came from. There's a few different theories.
But is Rollo meant to be the brother of Ragnar?
So that's
in theory.
That's just for the Vikings.
That's TV.
Yeah. So in reality, Ragnar was way further back in time.
Yeah.
Go back 100 years.
Yeah.
That's when Ragnar is said to have existed.
Yeah.
And then obviously he was killed by King Aelle, and then his sons came back and they invaded. And
but Rollo's definitely at this point.
So we know that the history of this Rollo is, it's well documented. It's out there. Ragnar, you're getting into kind of myth and legend, but I believe he was a real person. I don't believe he was like this huge Viking king. He was more of like a tribal leader who, but his sons did come and they caused havoc after he died. Obviously, the legend is that King Aelle threw him into a pit of snakes and all that. Whether that happened or not, who knows? But
so what we do know is I'm 32 times grandson of Rollo.
Yeah.
I am 30. Is it 30 or half cousin or two cousins removed to?
Yeah, so it's second cousin 29 times removed of William the Conqueror. So basically, we're in the Normans. We're basically the root of the Norman line.
And my granddad obviously was his protector.
Yeah,
and then my 23rd granddad was the knight.
Yeah, so
and then so it goes further down to the sheriff.
Yeah, we've got the sheriff, we've got knights, we've got all this.
First Earl of Pembrokeshire.
Yeah. So we've got some criminals in there.
Fuck. I don't know what to say.
But we've got a lot of guardians, knights, protectors.
And I can research this now, can't I?
There is so much information about these people that we're talking about. So again, I'm just trying to. I've written some bullet points, and we've just tried to blast through.
What I want to do, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to hire you. And we're going to probably go, if you want, we'll go down to London.
Yeah, let's check it out.
And we'll do that, and then we can do it, and it'll be on TV, and then you'll be doing it, so it's not just me making shit up and saying, no, this is so me.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. Let's do it. We'll visit some of these places.
And can I have these? Are these your notes? Or can I have these notes? Or are these for you?
Yeah, you can take them. They're in my scrollings. I've got them on my computer, so
send me them on your computer.
I'll email them to you
because that'll be better.
Yeah, I had to scratch these down in my little shorthand.
I can't believe it. This is mental. This is mental. And from someone that I'm literally, and I'm a nobody, And then it's only through being Pauline, me speaking to Danny, Danny speaking to Josh, Josh finding me, then I'm now doing what I'm doing, and I'm on your podcast, which I'm truly really grateful to Josh and of yourselves for this. But to know, if it hadn't been for what's happened in my life, I wouldn't have met Josh. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't know this. And my life would have just been driving a police car around, getting old, eventually passing away. My kids might. But now this is going to be written, because obviously it is written, or it's on YouTube, and it's traceable.
It's online forever now.
Yeah,
and you
this
can
is going to be
pass this down.
traceable for my, in theory now, great-great-grandkids to listen and go, my dad swore a lot.
Yeah.
You know, he swore a lot, but then finding out all this as well, and it's all traceable and it's tangible.
Yeah.
So
real.
can I just say as well, thank you so much.
No worries, yeah.
How do you feel? You've changed my life.
Yeah, it's mad the impact it has on people that that don't know this. You know, I've been doing this for a while now, but it's crazy. It's crazy what you don't know. I think that's the thing. And again, lots of us share these common relations. You know, with nobility, kings. Lots of us are related to these people, but it's just, if you don't know, you don't know. And by knowing and understanding where your family's come from, and yeah, it's a cool thing, isn't it? But we have got one more little tiny thing.
Go on.
To finish off with.
Is this the
So we're going to come back to the modern.
peak?
We're going to. I don't know about the peak. This might be the well. The pit of
This is where it all
despair.
goes wrong.
This is where it all goes wrong. Yeah. So, coming back to modern-ish times now, we go to your fifth great-grandfather.
Right. On my mum's side.
Yes, and he was called Squire Bedford, which is a very cool name, isn't it? Squire Bedford.
Right.
Now, his daughter was called Ruth, and she married into the Jagger family.
No, fuck off. No. So this is my mum's side.
Yeah.
Right. And then
and so your fifth great-grandfather's daughter married into the Jagger family. Now, I did a little bit of research on the Jagger family she's married into, and we end up with a lot of hits to people in this particular Jagger family called Abraham Jagger. Now, when we did the one with Josh and Beard, we found out that lots of his relatives are called Abraham Jagger. Now, I haven't been able to connect the two together. There was lots of people in the same area, born around the same time, all with the same name. So we can't, but we can guess that the families are connected at some point.
So I'm not really amazed that I'm related to Mick Jagger. I'm more amazed that I'm related to Josh Goodwin.
Yeah, so Josh is sat there. So then I thought, let's just have a little scout on the DNA. Obviously, you've done your DNA. And I thought I'll have a little scout on there to see if there's any connection to anyone called Gudgeon. Just, because imagine if Josh's name just cropped up there, bang. Because you can be related as well, but not have any, you've got a limited amount of DNA.
Yeah.
So you could be, distantly related and still not share DNA. But yeah, when I typed in the name Gudgeon, a guy came up called Brian Gudgeon. So I don't know how he's related to you, but he's genetically related to you because, it's your
genes.
If your DNA is a DNA match to you, and based on the amount of DNA that matches is roughly your third or fourth cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a relation. And when I looked at his family tree, I found that his fifth great grandfather is actually Josh's seventh great grandfather, which means you are definitely related to Josh.
How's it feel? We look alike, really, don't we?
Fucking hope not.
And
that is it. That is the final bombshell, really.
So
that's amazing.
No, mate. Oh, come on, mate. To be related to the Josh Goodwin, the legend that is.
You know
Josh
what?
Goodwin.
You know what's impressive about all this? Because it's funny watching this go back, because if you watch when Danny did mine and Beard's podcast, we both looked as gormless and as amazed as you do.
Do I look gormless?
But you talk about influential people within history in your life, and you look at the impact that Danny has had on so many people, especially me. I'd like to think that as time goes on, in legend, your name will be there as like this. this, I don't know, protector, this guidance. Like you are the man.
I am a Knight Templar, basically.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in theory, my great granddad 5 times is Josh's great granddad 7 times.
No, so it's not as clear cut as that. It's a relation, a DNA relation to you. His 5th great grandfather is Josh's 7th. So there's a
that's what I'm saying.
There's a distant. I don't know exactly how you two connect.
Right.
But there's the Jagger connection, and then there's this DNA connection to this Brian Gudgeon, who is definitely a cousin of Josh. So you are distantly related. I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
It'd probably take me another year to figure that out. But yeah, you can rest easy knowing that you and Josh are related.
But
so family discounts for future filming work.
Look at his face. What the fuck?
Well, I mean, sitting back and listening to that, it was amazing. And I've like, it's funny watching you and watching your reactions there, Ben. Like,
I can't believe
it's mind blowing, isn't it?
I honestly cannot. It's like, I'm not saying it's a lie, but it's like someone is saying you're related to Santa Claus, and you're like, no, I'm not. And you're like, no, you are. And how many other people are? But then you think, but they'll never know.
Well, what's next for the History Hitman podcast? Then dare you say some of the trees that you've done to tease people into the future episodes?
So your friend Paddy the Baddie, we've done his tree, so we need to grab him for a podcast. Former UFC champion Michael Bisping, we've done his tree, and his is probably one of the craziest connected trees I have ever witnessed. You know, it's crazy. I've done, and Paddy and Bisping know about that. I've also looked at trees, you know, for people like Conor McGregor, Tyson Fury. I've looked into their history as well, just on the off chance that one day I see them and I can be like, I've done your family tree, mate, and we can get them on the podcast.
Well, you'll be in Marbella, won't you, soon?
I might see him, might see McGregor over there, next week. So, yeah, I mean, I've been doing lots of family trees for just, you know, everyday people who just want to know more about their family, and there's been some mad connections. There's been a few, like I say, there's been a few where, you know, the family's not the family who they thought, and you know, yeah, it is. But at the same time, when I have to tell people this, it's like, you know, it's nice to actually know, you know, just the knowledge, because that knowledge dies with those older generations, and there might be family secrets and stuff. So if you are, you know, getting into genealogy and you're going to do your DNA and you want to learn more, do it with an open mind, knowing that it could throw up a few family secrets that, you know, that's the warning. That's the warning I have to give. Like, I used to, I'll do your family tree. Yeah, let's do it and let's get involved. And now I have to always stop people and give them that warning, because if you're the kind of person who's going to take that really badly, then yeah.
Are you taking on new clients for genealogy?
Yeah, I am very busy. Obviously, I train fighters. That's my main job. But I have been really, really spending a lot of time doing this. I spend a lot of time doing people's family trees. So yeah, people can get in touch. The History Hitman on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find me there.
Well, thank you so much, mate. Thank you for changing my life.
It's all right.
And I'm sorry for my sweaty palms, but I'm like, you know, I didn't expect it at all. So yeah. I'm thankful that I'm not related to anyone called Sutcliffe, so I'm all right.
Well, that's actually. Let me just check these notes.
No.
Yeah, I were hoping for that.
So next outing is down in London. Then you're going to take him on a tour of his. Yeah,
that'd be really cool. Visit some of these places and you know, see it for real. It becomes tangible then, doesn't it? When you can touch it and you know that your ancestors have been there.
Yeah, I know. I'd like that. I want to do that.
Yeah, and then we'll go to the Holy Land on a crusade and
piss up.
Piss up in Jerusalem.
One more time then, Danny, where can people find you?
Yeah, so the History Hitman on Instagram and Facebook, and or Danny Mitchell MMA on all platforms.
Top job.
All good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ben Pearson.
No, thank you. And I hope you get loads more people wanting to do it, because it's life-changing. And thank you, Josh.
Yeah, cheers, Josh.
No, you're welcome, lads.
You've been a great help.
Same time next year.
That's it, mate. You've done it. Well done.
Cheers, dude. Thank you so much.
Sound.